wabarakatuh. Thank you for your attending to our class today. Introducing, my name is Muhammad Asadullah Hasan Al-Ashari. You can call me Pa Asad, and I will be your lecturer for this course, the International Trade Law. And for the briefing, in this course, we will explore how law regulates cross-border trade, how goods move from one country to another country, and what is the rights and obligations between the parties, and how the disputes are resolved when something goes wrong. And before we dive into today's topic, let me briefly explain how we will work together in this class. Okay, so I need your attention. To regulate our class, first, I want this class to be interactive. That means I don't want to be the only one speaking. I expect you to ask questions, to give opinions, and to relate the material to the real cases that you know from the news or from your own reading. And second, attendance and participation are important. Even if you are physically present, if you never speak, you never submit assignments, and never engage to our class, your learning will be very limited. So please be active, even if your English or your legal vocabulary is not perfect. This is the safe area to practice. Yeah. And the third, of course, we will use the Microsoft Teams to share the syllabus, slides, materials, and assignments. So please check it regularly, and all important announcements will be posted there. And finally, one very important rule is academic honesty. In this course, you will be asked to write short legal opinion, answer case questions, and maybe do some group works. You may use books, articles, even AI tools, but the final answer must be your own understanding. Remember that. And no copy paste from the internet, no plagiarism from friends. If I find clear evidence of cheating, there will be consequences for your grade. Okay? I hope you understand all the regulations. And with that in mind, let's move to today's materials. So, international trade law, the basic concept and legal framework of international trade. The international trade is the exchange of goods and services across national borders. Okay, from these sentences, I think that you already know. For example, if you are the Indonesians and you need some goods that no one can supply to you from this country in Indonesia, of course, you need to supply from another country. Maybe your friends from Malaysia can provide you the goods that you need. Let's say mm, plastic, maybe. Just imagine, just wondering that there is no plastic at all in Indonesia. Then you can call your friends from Malaysia. You say that, oh, I need the supply of plastic because now I'm just building my business that need the plastic as the basic part of my product, for example. Then your friend said that, oh, okay, I can provide you the plastic, but I need the contract that regulate between the contract that regulate our the relationship. How if I send the goods using the shipping, using the aircraft, but you need to pay by the paying account, by the And we need also to coverage our activities through the insurance contract. Yeah, that's the whole example regarding the international trade. So economically, this is part of globalization, but legally, international trade is complex. At least there will involve three layers of law. The first is international public law, such as rules between the states, such as WTO agreements and international conventions. And the second layer would be national public law, such as state regulations within one country, including customs, export import, banking, and foreign exchange rules. And the third is the important one, the private law, contracts between private parties like sales contracts, shipping contracts, and insurance. So, what is the important? Why do we need law in international trade? Why don't just we send the goods and we receive the payment? Okay, just try to try to answer these questions. What if the buyer refuses to pay? What if the seller fails to deliver the goods? What if goods are damaged during transit? Which country's law applies in a dispute? Which court or arbitration forum has jurisdiction? These all questions you can just answer by the law. Because law provides structure and predictability by defining responsibilities, required documents, risks, and cost allocation, and of course, the consequences for contract breaches. So, from these questions, we can imagine how really important law is. Yeah. So, firstly, we have to understanding understand about the public law dimension. Countries regulate international trade through public law, which includes the trade law and export-import regulations like licensings, export bans, or quotas for specific goods. And also the customs law will regulate rules for goods declarations, duties, tariffs, and smuggling prevention. And the third is the banking and foreign exchange regulations will regulate how foreign currency payments are conducted and reporting obligations to the central bank. These rules reflect government policies aimed at protecting domestic industries, securing foreign exchange, and ensuring product safety, as well as maintaining national economic stability. And do not forget regarding the private law dimensions. As I said before, that the third layers of law, while applied to the international trade activities, would be the important one. On the private law side, foreign trade is built on a network of contracts. There are three contracts that really important to conduct while you do the international trade activities. The first is sales contract. This is the contract between exporter and importer. The content would be the detailing price, goods description, delivery process, and of course, the important one is payment terms. And the second is carriage contract. This is with the shipping company or airline. So, for example, if you be the seller, then you will have relationship between you and the airlines company. How is the terms and conditions that applied from the company that you have to consider it? Then you will decide will use the services or not. That's depend on you. And the third one that really important as well is the insurance contract. Why is this is very important is because the insurance will cover your goods during the transport because we never know what will happen to our goods while the goods are transports. So regarding this, the International Chamber of Commerce applied the specific terms that we can call it as Incoterms. Yeah, the Incoterms generally is the regulations that allocate costs, risk, and responsibility, determining who pays for freight, who insures, and when the risk of loss transfers from seller to buyer. So, from the public and the private dimensions that we already discussed before, we already know that there is the interaction between the public and private law. The public and private law constantly interact. For instance, two parties sign a sales contract for palm oil export, agreeing on Incoterms and letter of credit payment. However, the exporting country might later restrict palm oil exports for environmental or price control reasons. Yeah. Even if the private contract is valid, the exporter faces legal limitations under national regulations. As future legal practitioners, from this understanding, you will or you can consider how to balancing the um, important between public and private law dimensions. Here is the example questions for you. Consider this. An Indonesian company exports goods to a buyer abroad. During sea transport, the goods are damaged. Which areas of law are relevant? Maybe you will think the sales contract between exporter and importer, or maybe you'll think the carriage contract with the shipping company, the insurance law, international conventions on the carriage of goods by sea, national regulations on evidence and procedures, maybe. So many things that you will consider to solve this problem. This example illustrates the complexity and interconnected nature of the international trade law. So, uh, based on what we have discussed today, you cannot say that the private law is more important than the public law. The example before just give you some illustrations that even if the private law is already conducted between the parties, but the government regulations says that your goods cannot enter their country, so the public law will decline your private law areas. Okay, so from these explanations, we already get the key points. Here are the key points. And for the closing for today's meeting, I need you to submit the individual assignment, write a short paragraph to answering the question, why do you think international trade needs a different legal approach compared to the domestic trade. Use your own words, referring to today's explanations, previous knowledge, or news examples. You can pick one case maybe from the internet. And remember, do not copy paste and submit via Microsoft Teams before our next meeting. I think that's all for today. And thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.